for showing up. And this is the third outreach event that the Environmental and Natural Resources Committee is holding to share with those in Ocean Park and others who are interested kind of what we're doing in Guild Park. So I'm just going to have a short presentation, and if you've been here before, I apologize if you've seen some of these slides before, but this is geared towards people that have come before, just to give you a little background. And then we'll open it up just to questions. We'll have kind of a free-ranging discussion. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Guild Park is about a 20-acre forest preserve owned by the Ocean Park Association. It's bounded by Temple Avenue on one side, the railroad tracks up near the top of that slide, Free Street, and then kind of West Casco on the other side. What's marked out here are the trails in the park. It's used a lot. I've spent a lot of time in there this summer marking trees, and I'd say the most common people we see in the forest is dog walkers. Lots and lots of dog walkers, joggers, bicycle riders, kids playing catch. Saw kids, they actually, I'm not sure it's such a great idea, but they made bases and they have a little baseball football game. And then just people kind of walking, a lot of joggers, trail runners I've seen last month or so. So it's used very regularly by people, so it's essentially, almost, I think of it as like a recreational forest. There's four.
So those are the main trees there?
Yeah, the main trees are eastern hemlock, white pine, red maple, and northern red oak. There's a few birch that we've seen as well. But those are the four dominant tree species.
They like white
Gray birch is what we're seeing.
birch.
Yeah, gray birch. The northern part towards the railroad tracks is dominated by hemlock and pine. So it's a very dark forest. I'll show you a picture in a second. And as you get towards Free Street, you see more of the oak and maple. So there is a problem, if you will, in this forest, and it is the hemlock woolly adelgid. It's an aphid, a small insect, and feeds on the sap of the needles of eastern hemlock. So the hemlock trees in this forest are under threat. You can see that kind of white stuff, that's sort of the egg sacs of the adelgid. And you can see what they do. This picture looking up, you see a lot of dead branches. It's not really a healthy forest in places. The hemlock, unfortunately, it eventually kills the hemlock. It takes several years, but in most instances, an attacked hemlock will eventually die. So if you walk around this forest, what's that? It is hard to remove, yeah. You'll see a lot of kind of more or less standing dead hemlock. They might have a few needles on the top, but they're not doing very well. So that's one of the principal problems we're trying to address through our community. We want this as much as possible to be a healthy ecosystem. So we'd love it if we could preserve this kind of hemlock forest. I mean, they're really beautiful forests. They're sort of these tall trees and a lot of shading. They're sort of dark forests, but they're really beautiful. There's also a safety concern because the dead hemlock, the branches and/or the hemlock can fall down as well. So, we're interested in ecosystem health. We're interested in the safety of people using the forest, and also just the aesthetic beauty of the hemlock forest. Beyond that, beyond the insect, these trees are getting very old, and even some of the white pine are not doing very well. What happens to white pine when they get very old is they're really prone to wind throw and windstorms. So this is a very mature forest, and you can see every once in a while after a storm, you'll see it blow down and come across the trail.
But it's so unusual to actually have mature forest.
Say it again?
It's so unusual to actually have mature forest.
Right, right. I mean, it really is a gem. Yeah. So, talk a little bit about what we're trying to do about this problem. There's several of us, some are here, Janet, and over there, and Mark and Alice is here somewhere in the back. We're all part of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee of the Ocean Park Association. We were able to get a Project Canopy grant from the USDA Forest Service of $7,500. And that allowed us to hire a licensed forester, Jesse Duquin, and he developed a forest management plan for the forest. You're Jesse?
I am.
Oh, well, that's great. So you can answer any questions that I can't handle.
I'll try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me know if I say anything that rings untrue to you.
Sure.
Okay. So the conclusions of this report were, maintain long-term forest health, which would involve some harvesting to remove diseased, dead, and dying trees, particularly the eastern Vermont that are dying. This will open up the canopy to greater light and allow regeneration of some new trees. We want to maximize the safety for the people who recreate in the forest, and we're also going to have an effort to remove invasive plants. You'll see those invasive plants along Temple Avenue and Free Street. I saw Japanese barberry, bittersweet. There's several invasive plants that are kind of moving their way from the road into the forest. We're trying to get those invasive plants removed and try to keep them at bay in the forest. We also want to preserve wildlife habitat and maintain water quality. Yeah.
Do you have individuals that are available sometimes to apply different solutions and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's part of what we're doing.
What's the question, please?
Yeah.
Repeat the question.
He said, are there individuals who can help identify the tree species? I'll talk in a second about what the volunteers in the community are doing. What is our community doing? We're kind of helping to manage the green. It's really being managed by the Ocean Park Association. We're volunteering. What we're doing is, you can see that little lumen tag on the tree, and we're measuring what's called the diameter of breast height of the tree, and we're identifying the species and we're marking the locations. So it's essentially a forest inventory of what we're doing. And when we're done, I think we'll have a database of about 2,000 trees. We'll have a set, we'll know, how much of the forest is hemlock, how much of it is maple. We're also trying to play a role in facilitating the release of beetles. There's a specific species of beetles that feeds on the woolly adelgid. And the first, if anyone was here 2 weeks ago, we had Colleen Turling from the Maine State DEP, and she is an expert on invasive insects. And she talked a lot about the woolly adelgid and these beetles. Apparently they feed only on the woolly adelgid, so they're not really a threat to the forest ecosystem. But you need to have a critical mass at least to really have an effect. And they're fairly expensive. It's $3 a beetle. You can buy them from a company, I think in Pennsylvania. We've done 2 releases so far of 500 beetles each time.
Wow.
And according to Colleen, there has been some success when there's a critical mass of these beetles. They've been able to knock back the adelgid enough to make a difference in the forest. We're also considering the possibilities of chemical treatment of trees that we think can be saved. That's going to be a project in the future, but there are chemical treatments that will kill the adelgid and enhance the chance of survival by the hermit. Okay, so this is one of the things Jesse has been doing, is marking the trees with blue stripes. So if you're out there on the trails, you'll see some of these. These are typically dead, diseased, or trees that are overcrowded with canopy, and maybe some that present safety concerns. And these are the trees that we're targeting for removal. Does that sound right to you? Yeah. About 30% of the existing trees will be removed, I think, when it's all said and done. It's most likely this harvest will occur in the coming winter. I think the details are still being worked out, but it will most likely occur this winter. It's best to do this type of harvesting in the winter because it minimizes the disturbance of the ground surface when it's frozen or snow covered. So that's most likely going to happen. And then you expect when you create openings in the canopy that you'll get some forest regeneration. The plan calls for actually planting some trees to regenerate, but you've noticed when you get these gaps in the forest, you see natural regeneration. So regardless of whether you're able to plant trees or not, I think you'll get some natural regeneration. There's concerns about things like deer browsing. They favor eating trees like maple, and so you won't get good regeneration of maple unless you fence the deer out of the area where the trees are regrown. So this is kind of what we see as the challenges for us as a committee. We've been told our grant is not likely to be renewed. When we first got this, the political climate was a little different, and we thought, we were sort of told, oh yeah, these grants typically get renewed for 2 or 3 or more years. But the expectation now is that probably won't be the case. And so what's that? We're going to have to seek some additional funding to implement some of the things we'd like to do in the forest. You know, if we're going to do any type of chemical treatment, that would be possibly releasing more beetles. There's a cost associated with that. And so that's something the committee's going to work on. And I guess we're coming to realize that this really needs to be a sustained effort. We're not going to solve this problem in a year or two. This is probably a multi-decadal process to kind of manage this forest. It was interesting, the first meeting we had, there was a lot of questions related to human use of the forest. You know, should that be limited in some way? Right now, there's a few rules, there's guidelines I think when you go into the forest, but pets kind of run freely around the forest. We're already thinking that maybe in areas where we're trying to get regeneration, maybe to fence or rope off some of those areas to avoid trampling and try to keep things like deer and browsing at bay. But what we want to do is just maintain a healthy forest that can be enjoyed by everyone in the future. So that's about all I had. In the past, we've just sort of opened it up to questions or comments or whatever people would like to talk about. We're fortunate to have Jesse here. He's the actual professional forester, so do you have any, one of the things you have level?
Yes, yes.
This is a naturalist that leads walks with you.
Oh, okay, so you know Gil Park well.
Yeah, and I was curious as to, I read the forestry plan, I think it's a very balanced and the plan, I have to say, it's kind of all about the execution of that in terms of who carries it out. Because what I've seen from foresters make a nice plan and then implement it and they want the wood. Are you selling the wood, like the pine and so forth, so that'll help pay for
Would
the
you
pine?
like to say something?
Yeah.
Sure. We get up. Yeah, so it's going to be a commercial timber harvest. So it will be a net gain commercial park association, which those funds can be used to be put back into the park. However, they want to allot the funds. A lot of the wood is pretty low grade. I mean, there's a lot of dead, pretty close to dead. Pretty much dead hemlock isn't worth a heck of a lot, but
And hemlock on the floor, people who harvest wood all leave all crap, you know,
Yeah.
the beach and hemlock and they take the pine.
yeah, I mean, as a forester, we're just trying to do the right thing out there. So, I mean, I marked a lot of really low-grade stuff, and
Really guard it all.
that's what I tried. Yeah, so I'm going to administer the wholesale, the harvest, everything like that. So, make sure everything goes the correct way.
So you said it's 30%.
Roughly.
What's,
Yeah.
an idea what the average age of those trees are? Or it's gonna be-
Most of those trees are pretty old. I'd say they're around 100 years old, probably.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
I would say that probably at one time it was probably cleared, it was probably agricultural ground at one point in time, and that's just what naturally came back. Not much has been
It
done.
hasn't evolved before.
Probably a long, long time ago, yeah, probably turn of the century. That was,
There were many stumps in there, it doesn't look like it's been logged for a very long time.
yeah, it's been a very, very long
You know,
time.
there's not a lot of trees, but from what I've seen, there are a lot of big trees, animals are drawn to big trees, leaving a lot of big trees. So there still will be a good representation of big trees.
Oh yeah, no, there'll be plenty of big trees left. I mean, honestly, even as a forester, I love walking through a stand of wood like that. It's just beautiful. It's not necessarily the healthiest forest in the world, but it's very impressive to walk through it. So.
Are there like a lot of basic species that are in the forest and
Mostly along the roads.
In the park itself, it's not bad. Pretty much any invasive plants are roadside, so we want to try to nip that in the bud right now so they don't invade into the, especially after harvest. If you disturb the soils, then it just gives more of a chance for those invasive plants to invade. So really, the biggest concern right now is just hemlock woolly adelgid, which there have been some studies done by the U.S. Forest Service in regards to hemlock woolly adelgid and crown. They call it the crown thing, but basically it's just a thinning. It's getting the crowns to not be touching helps a lot. Number one, the adelgid can't jump from tree to tree to tree, basically. It just get blown into the trees as easily. But another thing is it creates like a microclimate with, when you have crowns that are just touching like that, it holds the warmer air in. So in wintertime, if you get certain temperatures in wintertime, which coastal is very difficult to get to that cold temperature really to kill off the hemlock woolly adelgid, but you can get those stretches of cold weather that will kill the adelgid out. But when you have a close crown, it insulates it basically, and it'll keep that temperature up just enough. So, what's that? The adelgid? Right now it's kind of coastal Maine, because if you look at the temperatures in the wintertime, you'll see that band, you get coastal, it just keeps it warm enough. Basically from as far as south in southern Maine up to like Pittsburgh, Brunswick, up that way, and then inland. It's kind of there's some by like St. Joseph's College, by Senegal Lake, it's kind of like another microclimate basically. But generally it's coastal right now.
But they're a problem up and down the East Coast,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania forest.
Yeah.
So it's not just local here, it's like.
No. In fact, it's kind of worked its way north.
Yeah, slowly over time. Yeah, just like a lot of other invasive plants and insects, it's just kind of slowly moved up. Just like emerald ash borer started out in Michigan, but it's kind of moved its way here.
It's all because of the warm climate.
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as emerald ash borer, I'm not
They
sure.
do say with the adelgid that milder winters favor their spring.
Yeah, for the adult.
Colder winters tend to not be better.
Yeah, that's why you get into Western Maine, if you get, say, kind of north of Sebago Lake, to the Bethel area up there, it's going to be hard for it to move in unless the temperatures really continue to stay warm in the wintertime. We usually have some pretty good sub-zero temperatures, but will just knock it back. So I even have a client in the Sanford area that they had one there, and they had kind of like one winter they had a cold snap and zapped it, they killed it off. So they were lucky for now.
There are hemlock that some look better than others. I don't know why exactly, but some seem to have fuller crowns. They haven't been.
They're probably like the dominant ones, and they have probably the most full crowns, basically. The more live crown ratio you have, the better they're going to be. Just because, the adelgid is really just defoliating the tree over time. The more, it may look good, but it could be good, but you never know. It just might take longer to defoliate. Your live crown ratio, so your live crown is just the stem of the tree. You want to probably try to have it right at least 30%. So if they're in the tree, you want to have a live crown to be really healthy. In which, well, the hemlocks out there have technically a live crown at 30% of the tree. It's probably half the needles at 30% are gone because it's killed off the needles. So I really targeted the trees that were looking really, really thin. If it looked like they were really infected, I was like, wow, we should probably take this one. I was trying to leave the trees that they looked healthier, they looked fuller, so well, we're going to give this one a chance. I'm not saying that it will necessarily survive, but we're going to give it a try. So pretty much, once they're really thin, there's not much you can do with them. You're not going to turn it around if they're really bad. And then with the pine itself, trees are just like people, they only last so long. They're really targeted the trees that, some of them had a lot of wind damage, you can see them just like tilted, you know, the stem looked good, and then you get up to the top, and the trees like bent like this, well, you know, a good windstorm, this one's probably going down, so, I just spent a lot of time just looking over every tree in there, marking, I marked and tallied all the trees, had a lot of good conversations with people over there, so, every conversation was good, I just explained what we were doing, so,
We're thinking that maybe the harvest will favor the new generation of what pine because they're susceptible to that disease. We've seen some spots where little white pines are coming up in the openings.
yeah, even, so we had a huge pine seed here a couple of years ago, and just a few, so there's a ton of pine around here, you can see just all the cones, so pine, you put out cones every 2 years, it takes 2 years for pine to mature. And even with how close the canopy is now, you can see there's pine seedlings germinating. But yeah, in the openings, you can definitely see where the pine has come up, which essentially, when we're doing a thinning, commercial thinning, we're just trying to mimic nature really, in a way. So we're making these gaps, you get sunlight in there. And then as they're working in there, it just kind of stirs the soils up a little bit. It's super sandy over there, so you don't have to worry about being like rocks or anything like that. But it's just going to break up that duff layer, which you got to mix it up with the nutrient-rich layer below it. So it kind of makes it's like a garden, basically. So it kind of breaks it up, and the seed falls and the germinate well on that. So and pine's also not susceptible to being browse, so they don't like to browse on pine. So the chances of getting with the pine regeneration are pretty high there. So.
So, about the harvesting, when they do the harvest, will we see 30% tree stumps? Or will they take it all the way down?
So you'll see these tree stumps, but they're going to be pretty low. I don't know if there's a single rock out there, so they can cut the stumps really low. Sometimes if it's a real rocky lot, the stumps will be a little higher. And so the planned timber harvesting crew that I'm going to get in there, it's a hand crew, so it's a little slower pace. He cuts by hand with a chainsaw. He does have a grapple skidder which pulls the trees out, and then there's going to be what they call a slasher, which it processes the wood on the land itself. So it's not going to be all fully mechanical crew, like they're going to be done in 2 days. So it's going to give you a little chance to see what's happening. I mean, and the guy that I want to have do it, he's a really good operator. He's a really nice guy. He does a great job. He's very, very careful. The plan is also to pile up. So when he brings the trees to the landing, he's going to deliver the trees there. The plan is to haul them off the brush to the town dump where they grind it. So it's going to keep the park itself cleaner. So it won't be just limbs and debris everywhere. So we're going to keep it as clean as we can. So it's a little different than a normal timber harvest, so but it's also a special place. So.
Jesse, just a follow-up to that, I don't know if this is a question we got one of the other weeks, people were asking, were you going to cut where the blue mark is, right? Because there's a high blue mark.
Oh, no, so we'll cut that low. Yeah.
Right.
Now, I usually mark the trees like right about eye level, chest height, just so they can see.
But there's also some blue marking, you can't see.
Yeah, so I do. I stump mark them too, just to, so once they cut them, look at them. I have good faith in my operators that they're not going to be cutting all the trees that I didn't mark, but I like to stump mark them too sometimes.
So one of the questions we've had in some of the previous presentations is, in a natural forest, when the tree falls down and over time it decomposes, adds nutrients to the soil. So some people were concerned that hauling all these trees out of the park, is that going to diminish, the soils and hurt the parks and the ponds?
There have been studies on that, even on biomass timber harvesting, where they chip all the tops. It does reduce some of the nutrients, but with the trees remaining, you're still getting all that leaf litter. You're still going to get the branches that are going to be decomposing. It's naturally at the rate of how trees fall down. It probably balances itself out.
It sounds reasonable, Rob and I always say is a messy forest is a healthy forest, right?
Yeah.
So it recycles what's moisture, recycles and creates debris for the next generation of life from the other.
And And I mean, honestly, on most of my other jobs that I manage now, I don't have chipping crews going in there. It's either a mechanical crew that they're bringing the limbs back in, or it's a cut length crew where they're processing the woods that we went to. This is, like I said, it's a little different because it's a park, there's a lot of walking trails and everything. If wanted, we could bring the limbs back out there, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably wouldn't like that, so. We'll do whatever everybody wants, so I mean, it's, yeah. But I mean, and I mean, even with bringing the trees out and limbing them on the landing, there will be some limbs out there still that will decompose over time. Yeah, so what I did is I marked a lot of the tall dead standing, but if it was a dead snag that was like maybe 20 feet tall, that wasn't going to be a threat to people. And especially if I saw that some sort of animal bird was using it, I left it. So there's plenty of like pine stuff like this that I tried to do. So I tried to balance it the best I could.
When you get to the other end where it's there's so much life in there, and those trees are not as big. So like you see the possibility of taking out some of the trees all the way to the like you can, and getting more diversity and more wildlife, more birds. Birds are like in the brook, protecting the brook and all of that. Very important. That's so nice to have a brook. It kind of draws into it, so it's very
I tried to leave a bunch of the red oak as well. I mean, I did a little bit of it, but I don't even know if there's a full load back to the log. I just tried to space things as best I could. If they were kind of one looking marginal, I took it. So just wanted to keep it hard mass for animals. It's a squirrel sanctuary out there. There's more gray squirrels than I've ever seen in my life.
I think that this past year,
Let's say their regeneration is their reproductive rate, like,
I don't know if they
Very
ever
hard to
reproduce.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're so small, it's Colleen, who was here a couple weeks ago, saying it's really hard to track them because they're so minuscule.
The size of the head of a hen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put these like pads out there. They mark where they mark them. So when I was marking with them, I'm like, well, all right, I'm gonna leave the tree that looks the best here and take the marginal ones because that, as good as the beetles see, they can take an entire colony just from one of those little trees. So it's very tough. You know,
the 500 is really.
it's tough to treat those
We'd like to
large
keep
trees.
doing this
Yeah.
for 10 year after year, hopefully.
Yeah, it's kind of a new thing, so I'm not sure. I don't know the life cycle of them either for here in the Northeast, if they reproduce or if they die after a year. I'm not sure exactly.
Colleen said they can winter over.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
It depends on how severe the winter is.
Right. Yeah.
As long as the woolly does are there, and we need a source of food, so.
Why don't they stay right in the park?
Yeah.
So that's another thing why we want to do it in the wintertime is because it's dormant. So it's not going to spread. She asked about moving the branches to like the town gum if it's going to spread the intelligent.
Oh.
So in the wintertime it's dormant. It's not going to spread. So it's a good time to do it. Right now would not be a good time because it's just going like crazy. So if you're moving it around, you can blow off a truck or something like that and spread it everywhere else. So that's where another one of our goals to try to do in the wintertime is to try to mitigate that.
Two questions.
Yeah.
How many trees is something? Is there any trees that are
Yeah. Let's see. So she asked how many trees 30% roughly was. I did tally. I did tally the trees. I honestly can't give you an exact answer on that.
You know how many marked total?
So I tallied the pine at least, so to give a rough idea of the volume on that. So I probably should have tallied up the actual number so I had an idea.
We'll know, the committee will know once we've done all the geocoding. One of the pieces of information we're tracking is this one that's marked in blue, ready to be cut. So we'll have an exact number. But it's going to take some time. No, that's a good question. I mean, because we don't really know. 30%,
We're
20%.
thinking there's on the order of
It doesn't feel like it's 30% this.
But we noticed it seems like there's more marks somewhat closer to the trails. As you get further away from the trails, the marking doesn't seem to be quite as intense.
Yeah, I think, I know somebody had asked that before. This is my thought on it, is that over the years of all the ground compaction, that you're getting a lot more of the dead or marginal because the roots have been walked on for so many years. So roots really need a lot, they need air, they need oxygen. So, you know, if you're just walking on it, a lot of people don't realize this, but yeah, if you compact that soil, it just doesn't have as much oxygen, so it can cause trees to decline over time. It usually doesn't kill them right off, but, you know, over 100 years of people walking there, you do that. But also a lot of it too is people are walking the trails, so they probably see the marks more by the trails. But yeah.
That's what you think of the
Yeah. It's pine is pretty good too. Well, some of the hardwoods can be a little more sensitive, but it's fun the more I mark them, this one's dead, this one's dead, this one's dead, you know, when I first did the forest management plan, I didn't look that hard at how much was actually dead in there, pretty close to that. Once I got marking, you really analyze every single tree that you mark, you just like, boy, okay. So, but that'll all get taken out, utilized, still. There's some of it that just died, potentially saw logs, and then also send some for pulpwood and big paper, so it'll get used for one thing or another.
I wonder a little why there are more hardwoods as you look towards the Free Street.
Yeah.
It's not as dark a forest, and there's something different about the soils or something.
Yeah.
It seems to favor them.
Yeah, I believe the soils are slightly different on that side. I think, yeah, I'm not sure.
Because it looks very different if you enter from Free Street versus entering from.
Yeah, I don't know if that side might have been disturbed a little later on too, if the other side just hadn't been touched, because it was all planned to be houses, just like all these other roads. They call them paper roads. If you look at it on the map, they planned roads through there, so it was supposed to be just like all this neighborhood here. And I'm not sure the history behind it, but it never happened, so I'm not sure if they had planned something on that side, on Free Street, and just it never did, went along for a while.
Chip in any of it, and then could you use the chip to work on the trails, to keep people more on the trails and away from some of the stuff that's more fragile?
So they will chip on site there. Primarily because when you have a chipping crew on a site, you got a really big landing area. I wanted to limit the size of the landing area as best I could. But so like I said, the limbs and then some of the really dead material is going to get brought over to the town dump where they have a pile of, you know, all that. So it'll be, and I think you guys have a yearly contract and grind it. Basically, so they get a grinder in there. It's basically a chipper that just mulches it basically. So I would say that if it was wanted for trails, that you guys could probably figure out a deal to try to get some back and put it in there if you want to do that. So there's also the option of if there are a bunch of limbs and stuff, and we're going to do our best to keep it as clean as possible. Having like a forestry mulcher go through where the trails are. They have like a skid steer size that can go down the trails and just get like a mulcher, it grinds up the limbs and stuff like that. So there are a lot of different options to potentially have there.
I don't care, doesn't spread with mulch?
What's that? I don't believe it does, especially if it's dormant in the wintertime and it goes through a grinder. It's gonna just pretty much just destroy it. It's gonna have the greenery, it's gonna be alive at the time to really spread. So, and
Fresh branches and so forth.
yeah, it's gonna be on the fresh green branches. It doesn't survive long like off the actual branch. So if you put it through a chipper and grind it up in the wintertime, it's not gonna
It's
grow.
in the whole net, so it's not spreading, you can take it to a dump, and so the dog is local, it's probably.
Yeah, it's just being airborne is the really big thing.
road is probably over 1 feet because of the road system, the road system. So going forward, we propose educational, be proactive, and hope that everybody understand how those routes are.
That would be better. Yeah.
Like the postings or however it is posted.
So she said that, you know, like you're going to west of Redwoods and stuff, they say try not to walk over the root systems of these big trees just because they can damage the roots, which it has out here as well, which is might be a good thing to have some education on it to at least educate people that, you know, damaging the roots, walking, you know, or scuffing around, you know, along these root systems could damage the trees, which would be a good thing, which could be put on the kiosk there, just to let people know. I mean, we are fortunate that a lot of the trees that are out there, a lot of them aren't extremely sensitive to their roots being damaged, but I mean, just over so much time, it's done it. You can definitely see that, especially in national parks. I mean, when you get thousands and thousands of visitors a year, that'll really do it quickly. But yeah, just generally educating people on this can happen would be a good thing too. So, just overuse over time.
With regards to bullet number 1, is the current condition of the forest with dead trees, would that be considered a potential fire hazard? Would you report it? Because that might be another angle maybe from grant money.
Yeah, so we asked if like the current dead trees and everything would be considered a fire danger if that can help with grant funds. So that grant funding is through which it's a community-based forestry program. Honestly, their budget is slashed to like about zero. So I don't know if there's any reason that's going to get them money. Technically, I guess, in my opinion, I wouldn't say that it's bad enough that it would be a fire danger. It could potentially be a good way to try to get some funding for it, especially with the train tracks right there, because they like to be sparse. But yeah, it's kind of a weird time for all of these organizations. They had really good budgets, and then they got just overnight eliminated. So everybody's trying to figure out what to do. I think they will still have funding. It's just it'll probably be more competitive too. So you're gonna have to really work on the grants to get the funding. But I think with towns that are already in the program, it's gonna help because if you're already in there, you already have programs going, and they're gonna hopefully put money towards continuing them rather than starting from square one, you know, with some other towns.
I was thinking more along the lines of people with vested interests like the railroad,
Yeah, sure.
making sure that it's safe passage through that area.
Yeah. I mean, all avenues are worth a shot, that's for sure. So, yeah, for sure.
The association is also going to explore private foundations, trying to see if there are any grants that we can apply for to help fund the maintenance part.
And I think that, I mean, I'm really hoping that a lot of the wood that gets thinned will open up well. It's not rotten and everything, but it should be a decent income stream for the association that will be put back into the park over the next coming years too. So it should be a good one.
So as individuals,
What?
as individuals,
Can you repeat that? We
Yeah,
can
so the
funding.
question is, what can individuals do? And that's something we're going to explore with Ocean Park Association and the new executive director, figure out how people can contribute to the park in particular. Because it's part of, these buildings require a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of expenses in the association. Hill Park is just one of many. So that's something that they're working on a strategic plan to figure out how to address that and how to go to the community to see how they can support some of these things.
I mean, I think.
Money for the harvesting now?
Yes.
This winter, it'll be coming from that initial 7,500?
Yes. So
So the 7,500, in a perfect world, if it would have been renewable, that would have helped fund maintenance as well as the bugs for the way up.
Correct.
So what you'd like to do is replace 7,500 every year on bulking.
Something near that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can see in the short term, probably the cost might be a little bit higher, like, you probably tail off over time, just trying to get things back to where you want it, get it all set, but, well, I guess I mean, with the returns from the harvest, you're gonna be $1,700, as long as things don't come well, so, just try to make it pay for itself, and be sustainable, basically, just use the resources, try to grow it, and put it back into the harvest itself, so.
There's no chance that the orchard beach is gonna come in and say, oh, we made a little profit here. Here's our cut.
I don't think, the association owns the land, so
Yeah.
We don't think that.
they actually contribute some of the deals that they release.
Oh, great.
So it wasn't all funded on Ocean Park. So that's
I mean, we've joined with them in purchasing deals, I think gives us a little better price.
When those beetles came, they needed to go, because I was sent an email saying these beetles are coming tomorrow, you better be here if you want to be here. So I said, I have a meeting, I can't come and see the beetles get released. I was interested more than anything, but when they came, they wanted to get them out there, so they survived and actually did their work. So.
Address to the citizen orders.
I don't think there's,
There's a conservation commission in Old Orchard. We, then some of the big members of our committee, liaison of that committee. There's some people from Orchard Park that are on the Old Orchard Conservation Commission. So, yeah, we're exchanging ideas, and they have the same issues, not just to build a park, but also.
Just gonna catch the right person on the right day. I mean, beyond the park itself, there is land as well that the association owns too, that can be managed as well. If in the future you want to look at that and sustainably manage that as well, which would be revenue stream walls and improvement as well. So we just haven't gotten to that stage
the
yet.
topic did come up at our last meeting. That's some of those smaller plots of land that the association owns. Some complaints from homeowners about falling trees.
Yeah, I remember everybody loves the trees until they start falling in the house.
Some of them, I think
or their
that-
pine needles all over their lawn or their roofs, and then they hate pine trees, you know, so.
One complication, I think, is some of those parcels of land have conservation easements, which are legal
Yeah,
documents, so
oh yeah.
you have to think about, can you reach that legal document or?
Yeah, long-term planning is key because a lot of people didn't think about that back in the day, like about what happens when trees get big and mature, what are you gonna do with them? It's like, you know, crush your house. Yeah, I mean, as a forester, we're always trying to look in 30, 40 years ahead, you know, you're always trying to look that far ahead, like, all right, what are we looking at here as far as what the forest is looking like, what it was.
Thanks for promoting, answering all
You
the
guys go. If there are any questions, everybody has my email, Justin and I know, so reach out with any questions anytime, so I'm happy to answer.
This is great, I'm glad to, I want to be able to support their boxes, and here's what they're doing, here's what they're trying to accomplish, and be a partner with us. We've got that space.
And one last commercial, if anybody would like to help code marks of these trees in the database, you will welcome additional volunteers.
Does that have to be done before the harvest?
Yes.
We'd like to get it all done before the
Yeah, I would think,
harvest.
yeah.
Well, I at least have the trees marked, so they're gonna try to mark the trees that aren't to be removed, I believe, is what the plan is to do, but, so,
We're checking them all.
I mean, if things get tight, I suppose we could prioritize even more trees.
How are you marking the trees that you've already identified?
There's a little tag nailed partially into the tree.
each tree is a number, and then they GPS it.
It's
They're geo-referenced, so you
especially if you identify it, you end up using some kind of insecticide. Which ones,
We're tracking
what
health and
year,
all.
you know, because you're going through it every year.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so that chemical treatment too, it's like it's a soil treatment, like, you can put it around the roots, and the tree's supposed to suck it up, and then it goes into the needles, and then it kills them. I honestly haven't seen it done yet. I'm not sure the cost of it either. But it's potential.
Thanks.